name is Shirabo John, and today I'll be talking about the risks and dangers in the oil and gas industry, and I'll couple that with mitigation and preventative ways of avoiding these risks and dangers happening to the employees of these oil rigs. I'll first of all start with defining what a risk is. A risk is the probability of an uncontrollable action happening to someone, and this uncontrollable action can lead to harm and damage, injuries to this individual or to the environment. So, to list the major risks that are happening in the oil industry, first and foremost, we have to look at accidents. People oil working on these oil rigs are prone to getting this accident, falls from higher levels to the ground due because these employees are trying to access equipment or take equipment to these different levels. The second accident that can probably happen is fire and explosions. These fires and explosions, since these people are drilling, they are drilling flammable materials. You find that the vapors in the air are flammable, and in case of any spark, fires and explosions can happen. And when these people are trying to make sure that equipment is working very well or carrying out some sort of maintenance, they can easily be stuck in confined places, and when they are in these confined places, anything can possibly happen. As I told you before, there are flammable vapors in the air. In case of sparks, these people can die, and they can be struck down by heavy equipment, and this can lead them to to the hospital or to death. The second point I want to talk about is exposure to harmful chemicals, exposure to these harmful vapors like hydrogen sulfide, which if someone is exposed to for longer periods can easily die within minutes. And then we have other drilling fluids. These drilling fluids, if one inhales these fumes, they can easily suffer from nausea, dizziness, headaches. So exposure can in turn lead to occupational diseases. These occupational diseases can be cancers, respiratory tract diseases, digestive diseases, and we also talk about the urinogenital diseases. This can be due to sanitation, or the sanitation due to the restrooms. How clean are they? From there, we want to look at the occupational injuries. As I told you before, these oil rig employees have to access different levels, and they have to work on platforms to different levels. So if they are working with heavy equipment and they fall, they can get injuries, dislocations, contusion, bruises, everything. These injuries can easily happen to them. Moving on, I want to talk about transportation. When I look at transportation, we look at the dangers of these trucks leaving the oil wells, taking this crude oil to refineries. Accidents can easily happen, road accidents, and these lead to fires and explosion, killing your employees and maybe even bystanders. And there is also the problem of collusion. There is so much activity happening on these rigs, and if there is not a systematic road pattern put out for these trucks to follow, they can easily collide and lead to explosions and accidents. And when we look at the environment as itself, this oil drilling, these oil rigs, if they do not properly manage their waste proper disposal, they can lead to pollution and contamination of these water bodies or the environment as itself. And those are some of the major risks and dangers associated with the oil and gas industry. But when we talk about oil rigs, we talk about the employees who have to work longer shifts. And if someone is stuck in a confined place for longer periods, their psyche can easily be distorted. So this is also a danger. They can easily develop anxiety disorders, etc. And the next part I want to talk about is the part of the preventative methods that can be employed to avoid these risks happening. The first method I want to talk about is ensuring that proper installation of all electrical wires is done properly. And the second one is to ensure that the chemicals are stored properly to avoid any accidents and accidental poisoning of employees. Second of all, I want to mention that these companies have to provide safety equipment and train their employees on how to use this equipment. The other thing is to provide firefighting and fire protection equipment for these employees in case fires break out. The next point I want to talk about is employees should train their employers should train their employees on how to use this equipment, on all procedures that are happening on the rig, so that no one is caught off hand. They should also hire competent people and also provide supervisors with experience who can easily handle any emergencies that prop out. Talking about emergencies, they should also plan out, uh, put in place a plan for emergencies, that people can easily follow in case these fires break out, accidents happen. They should also look at repairs and maintenance of their equipment regularly, or preventative maintenance. And the next point is reporting and monitoring. Activities happening on the rigs have to be closely monitored, and reports given to higher ups, and engagement of all stakeholders involved in the business, giving them information, progress and status reports on whatever is happening. In case any problems are identified to crop up, they can easily find solutions together as stakeholders of the company. Moving on, and then we also have putting in place new technologies that can easily monitor the equipment that are being used at these rigs. In case any problem is put forward, the computers can easily detect it and report it to the supervisors. We also look at road expansion in order to avoid these accidents that happen during transit of this crude oil, and to avoid collisions on these sites. They can also make a roadmap, a transportation model for these trucks to follow, and information can easily got from these trucks to the main offices to know where each truck is, in order to avoid any mistakes that can easily happen. We also talk about SWOT analysis. SWOT analysis can help these companies, these firms, identify their strengths and weaknesses, and in so doing, understand what to focus on and what to plan for, and which to find solutions to deal with the problems that they can easily face. And those are some of the preventative methods we can use in order to combat the risks and dangers associated in the oil and gas industry. Thank you.